My parents demanded I give them a grandchild, then tried to steal her. And when I finally did, they tried to steal her. Hey everyone, before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button if you want more stories just like this. Thanks for the support. My name is Harper, and I'm 28 years old. For as long as I can remember, my life has been a series of expectations set by my parents, but none was more persistent, more suffocating than their demand for a grandchild. It wasn't a gentle suggestion, a wistful hope whispered over holiday dinners. It was a campaign, a relentless multi-year crusade that seeped into every phone call, every family gathering, every quiet moment. My husband, Noah, and I had been married for 5 years. We were building our life, navigating careers, and enjoying the simple, hard-won freedom of being adults. We always planned on having children, just on our own timeline. But our timeline was not one my parents were willing to respect. Every conversation was masterfully redirected to the topic. Harper, your biological clock isn't just ticking, it's thundering, my mother would say, her voice a mixture of feigned concern and genuine pressure. My father was more direct, framing it as a duty. We raised you, we supported you. The least you could do is give us a grandchild to carry on the family name. The weight of their words was immense, a constant, low-frequency hum of anxiety in the background of my life. It began to affect my marriage. Noah was patient, but even he grew weary of the constant narrative that our union was somehow incomplete without a baby. We fought about it, not because we didn't want kids, but because we wanted the decision to be ours, born from our own readiness, not from the exhaustion of parental harassment. After a particularly grueling family vacation, where the topic was the main course for every single meal, Noah and I had a long, tearful talk. We decided to give in. We told ourselves it was time, that we were ready anyway, and this was just the final push we needed. It was a lie we told ourselves to preserve our sanity. A month later, I saw the 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test. The relief I felt was immediate, but it was tainted with the bitter taste of surrender. I wasn't bringing a child into the world out of pure joy. I was fulfilling a contract I never signed. When we told my parents, their reaction was everything they had wanted it to be and more. My mother shrieked with a joy so loud it hurt my ears, pulling me into a hug that felt less like affection and more like a claim. My father just beamed, his eyes shining with a triumphant light, as if he had just won a war. From that moment on, the dynamic shifted. The pregnancy was no longer mine. It was a public event, a project they were managing. They accompanied me to doctor's appointments, speaking over me to the physician. They bought a crib and a changing table and had it delivered to our house, unannounced, while we were at work, assembling in the nursery we hadn't even finished painting. Every choice we made was scrutinized and often overruled. We thought their excitement was a blessing. We had no idea it was the beginning of a nightmare. Lily was born on a crisp Tuesday morning in October. She was perfect, a tiny, wriggling human with a shock of dark hair in my eyes. In those first few hours in the hospital, a bubble of pure, unadulterated bliss surrounded Noah and me. We were family. We felt invincible. That bubble burst the moment my parents walked into the recovery room. They didn't knock. They swept in, my mother heading straight for the bassinet while my father began taking pictures, his phone flash firing in the dimly lit room. My mother scooped up Lily, cooing at her, but her eyes were on me, assessing. "Oh, she's a little small, isn't she? Are you sure you're producing enough milk, Harper?" The comment, so soon after I had endured a grueling labor, was a small jab, but it was the first of many. The first few weeks at home were a blur of sleep deprivation and learning. We tried to establish a rhythm, to find our footing as new parents. My parents, however, had no interest in letting us find our way. They became a constant, unwelcome presence in our home. They would let themselves in with the spare key we had given them for emergencies, using it whenever they pleased. I'd be in a dead sleep on the couch, Lily finally down for a nap, and the front door would creak open. There they'd be, my mom with a casserole dish, my dad with his camera, ready to help. Their help was a hostile takeover. My mother would take Lily from my arms the second she fussed, telling me I was holding her too much, that I was going to spoil her. She would reorganize my kitchen, criticizing my choice of bottles or formula. She would ignore the feeding schedule Noah and I had meticulously created, insisting that a baby knows when she's hungry. The undermining was constant. If we decided to use a specific brand of diaper, my mom would show up with another, declaring it superior. If we put Lily down to sleep in her crib, my dad would complain she was too far away and bring her into the living room, waking her up. The worst violation was social media. We had explicitly asked them not to post pictures of Lily online. We wanted to protect her privacy, to share her milestones on our own terms. My father ignored this completely. Our social media feeds became a constant stream of photos of Lily, many of them taken without our knowledge or consent. There were pictures of her sleeping, pictures of her crying, pictures of her in the bathtub. He even posted a photo of my exhausted, tear-streaked face in the hospital bed with the caption, "The struggles are real, but so is the joy." I was mortified. I felt like my daughter and my own vulnerability were being monetized for my parents' social clout. We tried to talk to them gently at first. "Mom, Dad, we really need some space to figure this out," Noah would say. "Please, just call before you come over." I would add, "And we're serious about the photos. Please take them down." They would nod and agree, their faces masks of understanding. But the next day, the cycle would repeat. The boundaries we tried to set were treated as mere suggestions, and every time we pushed back, they pushed back harder, turning our home into a battleground. The breaking point came on a Saturday, 3 months after Lily was born. Noah and I planned our first real outing, just the three of us, a walk in the park followed by lunch at a quiet cafe. We were excited, a little nervous, but determined to have a normal family day. We had just gotten Lily dressed and packed the diaper bag when the doorbell rang. It was my parents, accompanied by my aunt and uncle, who were visiting from out of town. "Surprise!" my mother chirped, breezing past me into the entryway. "We thought we'd all go to the park together. Wouldn't that be fun?" My heart sank. The day we had so carefully planned for ourselves was being hijacked. I looked at Noah, his face a mask of forced politeness, and I knew I couldn't let it slide. "Mom, Dad," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "We appreciate the thought, but today is just for us. For our little family." The shift in the atmosphere was instantaneous and chilling. My mother's smile vanished, replaced by a look of deep, wounded betrayal. My father's jaw tightened. "After everything we've done for you," my mother hissed, her voice low and dangerous. "We're just trying to be a part of her life. You're trying to keep her from us." "That's not true," Noah interjected, stepping forward. "We're just trying to set some boundaries. We need space." The argument escalated, their voices rising. My father accused us of being ungrateful, of forgetting where we came from. My mother began to cry, dramatic, heaving sobs, telling my aunt and uncle how we were pushing them away, how we were poisoning their grandchild against them. It was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. They stormed out, leaving a wake of tension and shame. We canceled our trip to the park, the energy completely drained from us. That evening, we knew the gentle approach had failed. We needed to have a formal, sit-down conversation, a final ultimatum. We invited them over the next day, laying out our terms like a treaty negotiation. I had written everything down. No one announced visits. All visits would be scheduled and kept to a reasonable length. No parenting decisions would be questioned or overridden in our home. And absolutely, under no circumstances, were any more photos of Lily to be posted online without our explicit permission. We presented our points calmly and firmly. We explained that their behavior was damaging our ability to bond with our daughter and was causing immense stress. We told them we loved them, but this was the only way our relationship could continue. They listened in stony silence. When I was finished, my mother looked at my father, then back at me. Her eyes were cold. "So, these are your rules," she said, her voice devoid of its usual warmth. "You're drawing a line in the sand." "Yes," I said, my heart pounding. "We are." My father stood up. "Fine," he said, his voice clipped, "if that's how you want it." They left without another word, without hugging us or saying goodbye to Lily, who was sleeping in her bassinet. We left that meeting feeling like we had set things straight, but the look in my mother's eyes told a different story. It wasn't the look of a grandmother who had been corrected. It was the look of an enemy who was plotting her next move. For 2 weeks, there was silence. An eerie, unnerving quiet descended upon our lives. My parents didn't call. They didn't text. They didn't show up unannounced. Part of me was relieved. The constant pressure was gone. But another, larger part of me was deeply anxious. This quiet felt like the calm before a storm. I found myself constantly checking my phone, jumping at every notification. Noah tried to reassure me. Maybe they finally understand, Harper. Maybe they're giving us the space we asked for. I wanted to believe him, but a knot of dread had taken up permanent residence in my stomach. The storm broke on a Wednesday afternoon. The mail arrived, and nestled between a credit card offer and a utility bill was a thick, cream-colored envelope with an official-looking stamp in the corner. It was addressed to both of us. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a letterhead that read Carter and Associates, family law attorneys. The letter was formal, sterile, and absolutely terrifying. It was a notification that my parents had retained legal counsel to explore their options for grandparents' rights. The letter stated that they believed we were unreasonably restricting their access to their grandchild, causing them significant emotional distress, and that they were prepared to take legal action to secure regular and meaningful visitation. I read the words over and over, my mind struggling to process them. This wasn't a fight. This was a war. They were hiring lawyers. They were using the legal system against us. Noah came home to find me sobbing on the kitchen floor, the letter clutched in my hand. The next few days were a frantic blur. We called our own lawyer, a kind but firm woman named Jessica, who specialized in family law. She explained the grim reality of our situation. In this state, she told us over a tense phone call, grandparents' rights are a very real legal concept. If they can prove they have a pre-existing, meaningful relationship with Lily, and they absolutely can, and that severing that relationship would be harmful to her well-being, a judge can grant them court-ordered visitation. The phrase harmful to her well-being echoed in my head. My parents had spent months documenting what they perceived as my failures. Every time I told my mom I was tired, she saw it as a sign of postpartum depression. Every time Lily cried, they saw it as a sign I was an inadequate mother. They were building a case, and the evidence was damning. Not because it was true, but because it was twisted. They started a campaign of whispers within our extended family, painting us as unstable, paranoid, and cruel. They told relatives we were keeping Lily from them out of spite, that I was suffering from a mental breakdown, and Noah was enabling it. They were creating a narrative, casting themselves as the loving, concerned grandparents and us as the villains. The people who were supposed to love us unconditionally were now building a legal case against us, using our own daughter as a weapon in a war we never wanted to fight. The legal threat of visitation was horrifying, but it was only the beginning. A month after we received the first letter, their lawyer filed a motion that would forever change the landscape of our lives. It wasn't just for visitation anymore. They were suing us for custody. The papers, served by a stoic process server at our front door, were a bombshell. The document, dozens of pages long, painted a grotesque portrait of us as unfit parents. It claimed I was suffering from severe, untreated postpartum depression, citing as evidence my exhaustion, tearfulness, and anxiety, all normal symptoms of new motherhood that my parents had meticulously documented. It claimed our home was unstable and chaotic, a direct result of our refusal to accept help. It claimed we were isolating Lily from her loving family, an act they argued constituted emotional abuse. The ultimate goal, stated in black and white, was for them to be granted primary physical custody of our daughter. They were asking a judge to take Lily away from us. The world tilted on its axis. I felt a cold, primal fear so profound it was physically painful. This wasn't about seeing Lily on weekends anymore. They wanted to steal her. They wanted to raise her as their own. The legal machine roared to life. Our lawyer, Jessica, was a warrior, but she was grim. This is an aggressive, scorched earth tactic, she warned us. They're going to try to bury you in legal fees and drag your name through the mud. We have to fight back, and we have to be prepared for it to get ugly. And ugly it got. The discovery process was a violation of our lives. We were forced to turn over years of medical records, emails, and text messages. A court-appointed social worker was assigned to our case, a neutral party tasked with evaluating our home and our parenting. Her presence was a constant, oppressive weight. She came to our home, a clipboard in hand, and inspected every room. She interviewed us separately, her questions probing and intimate. She asked about our childhoods, our marriage, our mental health. She watched us interact with Lily, her pen scratching notes on a pad after every coo, every cry, every touch. Meanwhile, my parents were playing their part to the hilt. They appeared in family court, looking every bit the part of the concerned, dignified elders. They had character witnesses from our church and community, people who only knew the charming, public-facing version of my parents. They presented photos of Lily looking happy with them, contrasting them with photos they had taken of me looking tired or stressed, often without my knowledge. They were building a case that Lily was safer, happier, and better cared for with them. Every court date was a fresh hell. We would sit in a sterile courtroom, listening to their lawyers spin a narrative about us that was completely unrecognizable. We were portrayed as unstable, selfish, and dangerous. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, watching a movie about two people who looked like me and Noah, but were monsters. As the social worker walked through our home, her clipboard in hand, I realized my entire life as a mother was being judged, dissected, and weighed by a system that couldn't possibly understand the years of manipulation that had led us to this moment. The final hearing was the culmination of months of terror. It felt like our entire future, our identity as a family, would be decided in a single day. Our lawyer, Jessica, was brilliant. She systematically dismantled my parents' case. She presented evidence of their controlling behavior, the timestamps on their unannounced visits, the screenshots of the social media posts they had made against our wishes, the emails where we had clearly stated our boundaries. She called Noah's sister to the stand, who testified about my parents' long history of manipulation and their inability to respect anyone's decisions but their own. The turning point came when Jessica cross-examined my mother. She was calm, methodical, and she cornered her with simple, undeniable facts. "Mrs. Davis," she asked, "you claim your daughter is unstable and isolated, yet you have over 1,000 photos of her and your grandchild on your phone, many of which you took in their home without permission. Who is truly isolating whom?" My mother floundered, her composure cracking. She tried to paint herself as a loving grandmother, but the evidence of her obsessive behavior was overwhelming. The court-appointed social worker's report was read aloud. While it noted the high-conflict nature of the family, it concluded that Noah and I provided a safe, loving, and stable environment for Lily. It found no evidence of neglect or abuse, and, in fact, praised our attentive parenting. It recommended that my parents be granted only supervised visitation, pending their completion of a grandparenting boundaries course. The judge, a woman with a kind but weary face, listened to everything. She looked at my parents, her expression stern. "While the love of grandparents is a gift," she said, her voice echoing in the quiet courtroom, "it is not a right that trumps the rights of a parent. This court finds that you have not only overstepped your boundaries, but have actively attempted to undermine and, indeed, dismantle the parental unit of your daughter and son-in-law. Your actions have caused significant distress and have not been in the best interest of this child." She denied their request for custody. She denied their request for unsupervised visitation. She granted them the bare minimum the law would allow, 4 hours of supervised visitation per month, contingent upon them completing counseling and a parenting course on family dynamics. We won. But as we walked out of the courthouse, hand in hand, the victory felt hollow. We had our daughter, we had our family intact, but the war had left scars. We had to look over our shoulders for months, half expecting another legal maneuver. We had to rebuild our sense of security, to learn to trust again. My parents, to our knowledge, never attended the court-ordered classes. They faded away, choosing to play the martyrs rather than do the work. The last contact we had was a passive-aggressive Christmas card with no note inside. We are a family of 3 now, and we are fiercely protective of the world we have built. We learned a terrible, heartbreaking lesson, that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones you have to protect yourself from. We have Lily, and we have each other. And in the end, that is everything.